Week 10 in college football. Let's start in Happy Valley. Number 4 Ohio State travels to take on number 3 Penn State. This is big noon kickoff, 11 a.m. Central on Fox, which just feels wrong. It just feels wrong for this game. Ohio State is currently a 4.5 point road favorite. Ted, is this the year James Franklin gets it done? He is 1-9 against Ohio State. And when you look at the circumstances, it it looks like 1-10 is definitely more likely than 2-9 because Ohio State's bringing one of its most talented teams in a long time, and we don't know what Drew Aller's status is for this game. After he had that knee injury against Wisconsin, and Bo Pribula, I've heard it said a million different ways. Is he the type of guy that can go and beat Ohio State? I don't know, but not ideal circumstances for the Nittany Lions in this one.
It's not. I guess it's good that you get them at home. You wish that you had them at home at night with a whiteout or something at that place. But um, to me, this one's almost more about Ohio State than it is about Penn State. And I know starting quarterback, huge deal for them. Um, but I mean, and he plays clean and efficient. Drew Aller does, but he doesn't put up huge numbers. They get a lot out of their running game, and they spread it around quite a bit to a bunch of different players. It's like what you would expect from Kotelnicki, right? All kinds of different creative ways to get guys the football. Um, I you want him to play, and I think because of how they use him, I mean, I could see him playing more injured than you typically would, if that makes sense. But um, aside from that, the rest of the circumstances are about all you can ask for, right? Like, I don't know how great Ohio State is necessarily. They've got great players, but I mean, if you're looking at how good Penn State is and how good Ohio State is, this is probably the best opportunity they've had in a while.
I would think so. And the line is actually down to 3.5 now. Ohio State's only favored by 3.5. But could it be the game where it all comes together for Ohio State?
Yeah. Penn State's been a get right game for them in the past.
And looking at that game against Nebraska, like Ohio State really struggled to run the ball. And their left tackle situation is not a good one. So is this the game against a really good Penn State defense where they get the run game humming with Henderson and Judkins, and then that leads to them just pushing it down the field with explosive plays to just that stable they've got in that wide receiver room? Maybe that happens, but it kind of feels like this game's going to come down to what Will Howard is able to do to me. I
Right.
think he's going to just have to make some big time throws under pressure, like deliver the ball when he's getting hit. And he's certainly got the wide receivers to make those plays. There's no doubt about it. But I really think it's Will Howard's the guy that's going to have to play at a really high level to get this thing done for Ohio State because I
Yeah.
could see that run game struggling again. If you can't run it against Nebraska, it's going to be hard to run it against Penn State.
Why why do you think the run game is struggling like it is? I mean, we know they've got one of the most talented running backs in the country.
Two,
Um,
maybe the two most talented.
there you go. So what's is it just not getting movement there? Is
Yeah.
it the quarterback position that's affecting it?
I don't know why they haven't used Will Howard a little more as a runner. Like he's capable of running. And maybe this is the game. Maybe they dial a little more QB run game up in this one, but I don't think Penn State's going to be able to run it against Ohio State either.
Yeah. Their D line for Ohio State is fun to watch. I
Really
like
good.
that.
Now, Penn State's got great backs as well with Allen and Singleton.
Yeah.
There's some really good running backs in this football game, but I think it comes down to the quarterback play. Whether that's Aller or Prabula, I maybe Prabula gives him a better chance. I don't think Aller being back there with a hurt knee and being a statue sets Penn State up for success, Ted.
No, and whenever you see what are we going with? Prabula?
You go Pribula and I'll go Pribula. And that way
Okay.
we cover both.
Pribula is whenever you look back at what he did whenever he came in against Wisconsin. I mean, he ran the ball quite a bit. He's a smaller, shiftier guy. He's like 205 pounds.
That offense got going when he went in.
Yeah, and he had a super efficient day throwing the ball. But I didn't see if that's much downfield, but he was 11 to 13, threw a touchdown, 98 yards, ran it 6 times, 6 for 28, and don't know what the sack situation was there or anything, but I mean, you feel like he can move around a little bit, and you look at their offense. It's not surprising the way Nicky does things. I think they got 3 guys, and he's one of them that are averaging, over 5 yards a carry. Up there, a couple guys up around 6. So they'll have something really creative for Ohio State that they probably haven't seen, and there's always the threat of what are they going to do next whenever Nicky's calling plays. So I don't know. This is a big one this is like the prove it game for Penn State, man. It's about all you can ask for. And I know your quarterback is banged up, so that's a factor, but you're undefeated. When's the last time they were ranked higher than Ohio State? Not that that matters, but I mean, it's a confidence thing. You're playing at home. I mean, come on. This has got to be it, doesn't it?
Give me Ohio State by double digits.
Jeez.
I just think when I look at the matchup, I think one team has way more big play capabilities in the passing game. Tyler Warren, who is a hell of a tight end, going to have an awesome NFL career. But Penn State's tight end has 200 more receiving yards than any other player on their team. The tight end,
It's got to be all those pop passes and hide plays and
but you look on the other side, you've got Jeremiah Smith, you've got Carnell Tate, you've got Ibuka. Like, I just think that those guys can change this game with just a couple of plays. And I think I think Ohio State has more of those guys.
it's true.
Also, James Franklin 1-9 against Ohio State. That is a big factor
That's a
in my
hard
thinking.
one to get past, isn't it? I
It
mean,
is. So give me the Buckeyes. Who do you like?
my heart says Pennsylvania State, but the brain is saying Ohio State. It's different for me though with Will Howard. I saw way too much of Will Howard at K State, so that is like really messing with me.
You can't get the Oklahoma State performance out of your head from last year
Yeah,
when
there's
he
things
single-handedly lost them the football game.
he carries a lot of baggage for me. I mean, think about the end of the Oregon game. Right? You don't want to just heap all that onto one guy, but he carries a lot of baggage for me to pick them in this game. But oh, what the hell? It's no fun. Give me Penn State.
Ooh, okay.
Give
A
me Penn
podcast
State.
divided on the big game of the weekend. I like it.
Go with your first feeling, your intuition, and that's instantly what it tells me is Penn State. I'm going with that.
If that happens, not to say that Ryan Day will be on the hot seat, but the discourse will ramp up.
Oh, it'll ramp up, but the situation the Big Ten has brewing at the top, If Oregon, Penn State, and Indiana all win out, isn't Oregon an undefeated team that's not going to be in the Big Ten championship game?
That is how I understand it.
How crazy is that? Oh wow. Which ultimately that's what I want. Give me chaos, okay? Give me chaos. As long as it's not affecting us, and I don't think it's going to this year, just throw all of the wrenches in all of the gears.
Moving on to the next game. Number 10, Texas A&M travels to South Carolina. 6:30 p.m. kickoff on ABC. Currently, A&M is a 2.5 point road favorite, and this is a very interesting game. Texas A&M coming off the big emotional, like just second half dominance of LSU. And meanwhile, South Carolina's just been chilling on the bye week, getting ready, resting up, couple weeks to work on this one. Ted, this place is going to be nuts.
What
This
a great
feels
game.
like a very dangerous spot for A&M.
Oh, I totally agree. Coming off of the huge emotional win and the way that thing went down, and now you're going on the road to a rested South Carolina team that presents a totally different challenge than what LSU did. Um, and let's not forget that they did fall behind in that game. And I know the second half was incredible, but man, this I'm with this feels like the stumble game for Texas A&M to me.
Okay. I I think they're going to go win.
Do
And it has everything to do with I think that their defensive line is going to get after that group from South Carolina. Now, yes, South Carolina's defensive line is very good. Dylan Stewart and Kyle Kennard, they can change the game in a couple of plays. We saw it firsthand in Norman. But I just think that on a down in, down out basis, I think A&M's offensive line will hold up more consistently than South Carolina's offensive line. And if you can't get Rocket Sanders going or Lenore Sellers going, if that run game is stuck in the mud and Sellers has to play from the pocket consistently, that's I just don't think that's a great recipe for success for South Carolina. So I expect it to be a really close football game, but I believe in Texas A&M, man. I think they go and get it done.
I think Texas A&M is the I think they're the better football team. And if they played this game 10 times, I think they'd win the majority. But they're playing it once. They're playing it on the road. They're playing it right after they had a huge emotional win at the house, and everyone's telling them how good they are. They're playing against the South Carolina team who's rested, ready, confident. Um, they're playing a team that is used to playing in chaos. I don't know. I think for all of those reasons, I think it's gonna be an incredibly low scoring game. I think this is like a 17-14 type of football game. Um, and I think South Carolina's the way their defensive line plays, whenever you combine that with Marcel Reed, who I think that I think the pressure that the way South Carolina's D line is going to play against him is going to change the way he plays. You know, he I don't think he'll be as good doing the things that he does with the way that they attack. It's it's going to be way more difficult.
If he's going to ride the mesh point as long as he did against LSU in that second half,
He'll
Dylan
be
Stewart's
taking.
going to come in and hit him straight in the chest.
He's going to take some in the chops.
So we'll see what it's like, and maybe that's not being talked about enough. Like you're taking a freshman quarterback and starting him in a very hostile environment against a good defense.
Against a really good defense. And I'm like, that's the only reason I'm taking South Carolina is just because of all of the other things. And I just happen to think it's like the perfect storm for A&M right now. And say what you want. Like, I think South Carolina they are a dangerous football team. And I think everyone respects them, but it's still not, you're not going to Alabama. You're not going to Georgia. So there is that level of, oh, thank goodness we've got South Carolina this week after we played LSU. And that's not really the feeling that you need to have going to South Carolina. And maybe that's not the case, but I it's so hard to get young players to be able to play good, consistent football week after week. And after watching them on television, they're going to have a really good plan for Reed. And I'm not saying LSU didn't have a plan, but it's going to be different than the way South Carolina is going to be able to prepare for him. Like, because you'd be shocked if they're not going with Wegman, right? They're going to go with Reed, and they're going to have a much better plan put together.
Give me A&M for two reasons. Number one, I think Le'Veon Moss can have a big day on the ground because of how Marcel Reed affects how you have to play defensively with his ability to run. Number two, I am I'm scared. I'm scared to bet against Mike Elko.
Yeah.
That's just kind of where I'm at with it, Ted.
But okay, I agree. And you know that I like Elko a lot. But even like the comments after the game, I love him. What he said about this is a real program. You don't have a politician or a salesman. I I love that. But it is one of those things that you feel like could have gone unsaid. He said it, and then you go and get your face dunked in the toilet the next week on the road against South Carolina. You know what I'm saying? It's just, I feel like that's maybe one of those moments.
He did in his press conference this week, he did clarify those statements though and say
Okay.
he wasn't talking about Jimbo.
Oh, okay.
So does it cancel it out?
No, because he's lying. Of course he's talking about Jimbo.
So you don't believe the clarification that he came out with?
No.
He may have been talking about Brian Kelly too. But he said he wasn't talking about anyone. Speaking it, it's not exactly what he said, but he's kind of made it sound like, hey, I was just speaking in generalities, you know?
Well, I don't know. Look at that. We're different on both games so far.
Are you more interested in Ole Miss at Arkansas or Oregon at Michigan? I can't believe when the Big Ten schedule came out and you had that Oregon at Michigan game. Oh my gosh, did it look juicy? And now that thing, you talk about a game with no sizzle. Ugh.
Yeah. I'm more interested in the Ole Miss game, Ole Miss Arkansas.
Me too.
And
They can go to Fayetteville and lose.
it's hard to know what Arkansas you're going to get.
I I completely agree. And that's number 19 Ole Miss at Arkansas. That's an 11 a.m. game on ESPN. And I believe Ole Miss it was at a touchdown. I think it's below a touchdown now. Ole Miss they're currently a 6.5 point favorite. Oh, nope, back up to 7. 7 point favorite. But Arkansas is coming off a game where they put 58 on Mississippi State in Starkville, and it's not Mississippi State's not a great team, but they've been playing some decent football. 58's 58, man. Taylon Green was slinging it all over the place in that one. And I think that they're capable of producing explosive plays in the passing game. For Ole Miss, I think one of the big storylines for this game is, hey, what's the health status of a couple of your best players, maybe your two best players in Trey Harris and Walter Nolan?
Yeah, whatever. Did you ever hear anything on Walter Nolan?
I haven't heard any type of update.
Yeah.
I mean, it was clearly a knee injury, right?
Yeah, and but it wasn't so bad. Like he was out there on the field in pads, but without his helmet. He just didn't look like a guy that was coming back in. So it's hard to know what to take from that. Um, I don't know. He, maybe this is controversial. I don't know, but am I crazy? I don't think Ole Miss is very good.
I think that Arkansas's defensive line will hold up fine against that offensive line for Ole Miss. And it comes out Arkansas plays a style of defense that is geared at preventing the explosive play in the passing game.
Mm-hmm.
Taking away some of the RPO stuff, like that's what their defense is built to do. So it could just be a bad matchup for Ole Miss.
Yeah,
I If they can limit the explosives from Jackson Dart in the passing game and make Ole Miss run it consistently and execute in the red zone, I assume it's going to be another wild atmosphere in Fayetteville. I don't know. It absolutely feels like a game that Ole Miss can go and lose.
yeah, 100%. I wasn't very impressed. I wasn't impressed with their offensive line. I wasn't impressed. I don't think their running game is very good at all. Um, Dart can make some really nice throws at times, but there's other times where he looks like they look pretty average, and that's without Trey Harris. Now he changes a lot for them on offense, and defensively, I saw us show up and run the ball really well against them, and
And we haven't been able to run the ball against anybody. Let's be real.
right, and we are our offense is a shell of itself. Like everyone knows, we don't have our top five wide receivers. I don't know. I just don't think Ole Miss is all that good. And Arkansas being at home, they've got some confidence back. Quarterback's healthy. Give me Arkansas. I'm just like signing up for all of the chaos this week, aren't I?
I love it. I'm
Might be
kind of
might
leaning the
be 0
same
for
way.
3.
I'm kind of leaning the same way as you, but let's keep this let's keep this a consistent theme. Let's go different on all three games.
Okay.
Give me Ole Miss in a close one.
You've got all the favorites. I've got all the dogs.
What could possibly go wrong for me?